The Securities Commission says it is awaiting PNB's response after seeking clarification upon being notified of discrepancies relating to former PNB President and CEO Jalil Rasheed's qualifications. SC said this in a statement issued in response to media articles alluding to its approval process when it comes to the appointment of chief executives. According to the SC, it was only recently notified of discrepancies in PNB's submission to the regulator on Jalil's academic qualifications and work experience. It says it has since received confirmation of the discrepancies in the submission. Under the SC's licensing handbook, capital market services license holders such as PNB would have had to ensure their board would have done due diligence on the individual's capability and competence. SC added that as a CMSL holder, PNB is required to ensure that all the information submitted was true and correct. In addition, the SC would also conduct regulatory assessments on the background of the individual with relevant law enforcement agencies. To recap, Jalil's resignation on June 15th was mired in speculation over his qualifications and track record. Sri Noh Omar has resigned as chairman of MISC after just 17 days at the job. He had taken up the post on June 1, 2020 and tendered his resignation effective June 17th. In a statement, MISC said that Noh had made the decision to step down following discussions with PM Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. MISC had wished Noh the best in his future endeavours. The resignation marks the end to the public outcry arising from Noh's appointment to the Petronas-controlled shipping group. This appointment joined a slew of other political appointments to the leading government-linked companies, which occurred soon after Perikatan Nasional took over in late February. Noh is currently an UMNO MP for Tanjung Karang and has held ministerial positions in the past. Astro Malaysia Holdings saw its first quarter of FY21 net profit more than half to 73.84 million ringgit due to a drop in earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization as well as higher net finance costs. In its BOS filing, Astro explained that EBITDA margin was down by 4.5% year-on-year as a result of higher content, merchandise and staff-related costs. Revenue dropped 14.7% to 1.05 billion ringgit as subscriptions and advertising revenues dropped due to COVID-19. Astro declared a first interim dividend of 1 cent per share. In a separate statement, Group CEO Henry Tan explained that Astro's businesses were not only affected by lower ADEX but also restrictions in upselling and installations. Going forward, the group expects to face headwinds in its advertising and commercial revenue as well as elevated collection risks, but has raised provisions on receivables accordingly. It added that it will proactively pursue disciplined cost optimization and active capital management to further strengthen its financial position. The prosecution in the government's 27.2 billion ringgit 1MDB case against 3 Goldman Sachs Group units is seeking to amend the charges made against the bank. The units are Goldman Sachs International, Goldman Sachs Asia and Goldman Sachs Singapore. According to Deputy Public Prosecutor and Head of Prosecution Manoj Kurup, the amendments to be made are related to liability, thought to be quite substantial and would require time to take instructions. Manoj says that the prosecution will need time to serve the amended charges to the parties, all of which are located overseas. As Malaysia's borders remain closed till August 31st, the judge has set September 4th for the next case management. To recap, the Malaysian government has filed 4 charges against the Wall Street Bank for allegedly leaving out material facts during its handling of 1MDB's bond sales. The government is seeking $2.7 billion in fines and the return of $600 million of fees received. On February 24th, Goldman Sachs pleaded not guilty to the charges. Malaysia's GDP growth is expected to contract by 4% this year before rising 6.5% in 2021, according to the Asian Development Bank. According to its Asian Development Outlook 2020, Southeast Asia is now expected to contract by 2.7% before growing by 5.2% in 2021. While COVID-19 has disrupted the economic machine as a whole, ADB says consumption remains a bright spot, rising 6.5% as stronger public consumption offset weaker private consumption. However, ADB warned that with the implementation of the movement control order, domestic consumption is expected to dip in the second quarter, while external demand is also seen to be equally weak as trade partners grapple with the pandemic. ADB says with oil prices expected to remain low, Malaysia could experience deflation at 1.5% this year before crossing back to inflation at 2.5% in 2021.